it's Jacqueline from Empower and Thrive channel. Welcome to this video, welcome to this channel, welcome new subscribers, returning subscribers, and all those who will be watching this video. We talk about immigration matters pertaining to the United Kingdom for those who are already within the country, those trying to come to the UK. I talk from experience, and the disclaimer is that I am not a lawyer, but I talk about some of the things that I have gathered in terms of information out of interest and to help others from my own experience. So, I would like to talk about one particular business model that I have engaged in previously and I will continue to engage in the future. This particular business model can work for you regardless of where you live and you are doing the business, whether you are doing it in that country you're in or you are doing it back in particular country. Like for instance, you are from Africa, maybe you're from East Africa, West Africa, wherever. It really doesn't matter. This particular business model is hard for people to steal from you your money. You may have heard about this business model before, but I'm going to come and talk about it from an angle of somebody that has already had the experience. And I believe that I have the credentials to talk about it because, for one, this is my area in the sense that I studied hospitality management, a BA honors in hospitality management. That is my initial qualification, and worked in the industry for a while. And so I feel that the Airbnb business model, which is the one I'm going to talk about, fits in because technically it is a house converted into a short-term stay, which is similar to the hospitality industry where people go, for instance, to lodges, hotels, and other accommodation and stay short nights. So these are the same principles that I can bring. Now, I'm particularly going to say that I've done this business in Kenya. That is where I have done the business before, and how I used how I went into the business is that I rented an apartment or apartments that were not my own. I rented them out, and I will talk about why I exited in another video. But today I will talk about why you need to particularly think about this business model. I'm going to say, number one, if you own your property in an African country that is in a good location, listen to what I'm saying. Number one, it's in a good location, it's secure, it has a good security, it's located in areas that are near transportation systems, that are near places such as airports, hospitals, that have access to transportation to town centers, for instance, you stand a good chance to actually make something from that property. The beauty about it being yours is that, one, your overheads will be lower. So for instance, you're not renting it and you own it, therefore you're not paying rent on it. So let's say you have an apartment that you perhaps are mortgaging and you're paying X amount of it. You factor in that mortgage and charge a nightly rate that you potentially feel that, yeah, this will bring me something that will cover my mortgage, or I can cover my mortgage and I can actually make profit out of it, depending on what your your payments are. Secondly, you need to think about whether you'll be living in that property as well. If you live in there and you have one other room, then you could potentially rent the room and live in the other room, as it were. If you're not living in it and you're looking to get away from the headache of renting it long term and missing out on monthly payments from tenants, then this could be a good model for you. We are talking about whether you live there or not. So in terms of the actual structure of the accommodation, make sure that this is thorough and this is well kept up, and that your accommodation is well maintained and habitable, because anybody that is going to promote businesses online, for instance on Airbnb or booking.com, that property must be in good condition. This will ensure that you're in good standing in terms of the people that come and stay with you, and that you get good feedback and grow your business that way. So those two things need to be taken into account: the location of your business, the the structure and the type of property you have, and the maintenance of it. Number one, those two things are very crucial, very, very crucial. There's no point putting an apartment on Airbnb that is in a location where people cannot easily get to it. It's very far. For instance, somebody coming to live in an apartment that wants to stay, let's say, for instance, the apartment I used to rent was in Mombasa, and it was near the Nyali town center, actually. So this was very near the town center, and it was also near transportation links, and it was also near the beach, for instance. So it could serve three purposes. One, it could cater for holiday makers because it also had a swimming pool and the location was suitable. It was secured. There was security. It doesn't have to be security standing at the door all day, but it needs to be secure in terms of the structure. And number three, it was well maintained, or at least for the people that maintained it, I tried to keep it well maintained. Once you've got that in place, the next thing to do, if you're abroad, is to look for somebody who can actually maintain it physically, the cleanliness, washing of items, bed sheets, changing of bed sheets as guests come and go. If you've got somebody you can trust and you're abroad and you have those three things in place, it's time for you to start thinking about turning those properties or that property into an Airbnb business model that will bring you within the region, depending on where it is, within the region, from anything from $20 right up to even $300 a night. That depends on your location and where this place is. The next thing to talk about is installing key lock systems. So when I talk about key lock systems, these are possible to put lock systems on the door so that when a guest arrives, and especially guests that arrive late in the night, can be sent a lock number to check themselves in. Because the situation that I was having was that guests were arriving quite late. Some guests would arrive quite late. Luckily, we had a security. So that security person, I would then liaise with them, or my manager on ground would liaise with them and say, can you open the gates, and can you open the door for these guests? They've just arrived, or they're arriving at this time. We can exchange numbers and so forth and communicate and so forth. There are other things around that which I'll talk about in another video. I don't want to overwhelm in this video and give too much information. We are focusing on how this business model can work. So that's that. That's another thing to consider. It's not the main one, but it's another thing to consider. And then the next thing to consider is the type of payments. Now, this is very crucial and this is important because you don't want a situation where your cash is being handled by people on ground, whether that is your housekeeper, whether that is your manager. You don't want that. You really don't. You also need to find out if you are going to provide other things such as fruit, or you're going to buy complimentary, this is complimentary fruit, chocolate, and so forth, depending on what is happening and the type of guests that you're having. These things are very common to provide now, and you have to be competitive. Gone are the days where Airbnbs just open an apartment and just throw things here, put a seat, put a bed, and that is it. There's a lot more to take into consideration. That aside, back to the payment systems. Now, when you are in the United Kingdom or wherever you are, of course, there are many different payment systems. PayPal is one of them. That's practically worldwide. So your guests can opt, and you can opt and discuss with your guests how they'll pay you. Some guests leave details on booking.com, their card details, which you can then take depending on the time frame and depending on the policies that you put for when you need to be paid, whether you need to be paid 50% before arrival, or whether they pay you on arrival. Guests can leave cards. You can use Stripe, for instance. Payment getaways are available. Payment getaways are available in Africa that can be used. You can give your housekeepers or your managers some cards or digital cards that can take payments. It took me a while, and I learned some very tough lessons. My money was being held, and they were paying. Some guests were paying in cash because they did not necessarily want to give card details, for instance, and they had cash. And in Kenya, particularly, let me just go to Kenya now. M-Pesa is a very popular payment, a mode of payment which is very popular. This is money payment system that is digital. It can be mainly funds are used. I can send money from here to an Airtel number, for instance, or a Kenyan line, and the money can be withdrawn by the person. I don't know whether all African countries have this system, but many of them probably do. I didn't have, all it needed was a Kenyan line, a Kenyan number. And guess what? It took me quite a while to find out that this Kenyan line can actually work in the UK. That's under Vodafone. So by virtue of having that Kenyan line and having the M-Pesa registered, which you have to register on ground with your ID, guests can actually literally send me funds onto that Kenyan line, and I can withdraw the money here in the United Kingdom. Guys, how awesome is really that? How crucial is that? To actually get your guests to pay you directly to you, even with me being in the United Kingdom or anywhere in that in most of the countries in Europe and maybe the West, Western Europe, any country that you're, abroad that has connections, and of course, almost all countries have connection now. So I was able to get my money and go to Western Union. You do some kind of transaction and they actually give you your cash here in the UK. Not a lot of people know that. One day I will talk about M-Pesa specifically and how to do transactions and how to get your money. So you have this Airbnb business. You have this property. You've listed it on site. I will talk about the listings and sites on another video. And people are booking. The people that you have on ground, your manager, your cleaners, who and who, do not need to handle your money. They don't. And how do you know the people that are booking your accommodation? Of course, you've listed it in your name on Airbnb and on booking.com. This might not be rocket science, and a lot of people may know this, but let me tell you something. I have experience in it, and I'm giving you this experience for free, practically. On another video, I will talk about how I can offer services of potentially managing people's booking.com, managing, or even maybe finding companies that are actually selling properties on an off-plan basis that you can pay on a monthly basis after paying a deposit. That property would be yours, but that is something for another day. For now, that is it. I don't want to digress. I hope this video has been helpful to somebody. I hope somebody will implement it, because there is something to be made out of this business, and it can lighten, your purse, and actually bring you something if you do it correctly. If you have a passion for it, you have a passion for hospitality, you like good customer service, which is crucial, then this business model could be for you. If you have any questions and you want to talk about the Airbnb business model, you can reach me. Leave a comment and let's talk about it. Thank you so much. Until next time, God bless you and bye.